This short video is devoted to covering adding and deleting anchor points. We're going to be reshaping our artwork a little bit here by adding new anchor points onto the mound of ice cream and then deleting anchor points from the mound of ice cream to give you some practice with this. To be ready for this particular lesson to start, first we're going to turn off viewing the template layer. We don't need to see those extraneous pieces showing through since we've already drawn the ice cream. And we're going to turn on viewing the cherry layer. Now, even though I've turned on viewing the cherry layer, I'm not going to be working on the cherry layer. I'm going to keep doing my work on the layer called artwork. Then with my direct selection tool from the toolbox, the white arrow tool, I'm going to come over here and click somewhere on the line that that forms the ice cream mound. We're going to make some new anchor points up here because we want to form a depression in the top of the mound of ice cream on that top curve to make it look like the cherry was actually pushed into the ice cream. So to make that happen, we want to go get our pen tool. Notice when you take your pen tool onto your page, it thinks you're going to try to create new art until you get on top of a selected path. When I go on top of a selected path, I can see if I move on to a location where there is no anchor point, a plus sign grows out, indicate that I could click there and add a new anchor point. If I would slide onto an area that already has an anchor point, it gives me a minus sign that indicates I could delete an anchor point. In this case here, I want to come over on the right side of the cherry, and I'm going to come very close to where the ice cream and the cherry come together, and I have a plus sign indicating I'll get a new anchor point, and I just want to click to add a new anchor point there. With that new anchor point added, I'm going to hold down my command key on the mouse or control key on Windows, and that gives me the direct selection tool, and I'm just going to pull it up a little bit so it rises a little higher on that side. Releasing my mouse, I want to come over to the other side. Again, I'm going to add another anchor point, so I'm making sure I have the plus sign showing at the bottom of the pen tool to indicate that's what the tool is going to do. And I've added the anchor point, and I want to move it again. A shortcut way to get the most recently used selection tool is to hold my command key down on a Mac or my control key down on Windows, grab that spot because I do have the white the white direct selection tool. I'm going to pull that up a little bit. So the idea here is it looks as if we've got kind of an indentation there where the cherry was pushed into the ice cream. And we're going to get our go to the select menu and go down to deselect, so nothing is selected at this point, and your top of your cherry mound should look like that. Now we have one more change we're going to make down here to the bottom. So let's go get our direct selection tool again, come over and click on the path anywhere so I can see, and there is an anchor point down here at the very bottom that we really don't need. As you notice when you're reading through this part of your book, it tells you that it's a good idea to reduce the complexity of paths. If you have anchor points that you don't need, there's no reason to keep them there. So I can see that there's an anchor point there. I don't want that anchor point. So I'm going to go get my pen tool, and when you go over to an existing anchor point, you can delete that anchor point by clicking on it, and it will shorten up the height of that. If we want to change the shape of it or pull it back again, we can go in there. Again, I'm going to use my shortcut, hold the command key down, grab that curve, and pull that curve back down. I can keep the curve without having to have that anchor point there. So that's a way to add and delete anchor points. That's all we have to do for this part of the lesson. So I'm going to click on nothing so nothing is selected and save my work. And I just want to show you a real quick little sample here of what else you could do with add anchor points and delete anchor points. I'm going to start by creating a small box. I've got my rectangle drawing tool. I'm going to keep it truly square by holding the shift key down as I drag this box. This has nothing to do with this lesson, and I'm going to delete it a little bit later. Now, I have anchor points all the way around that box. I'm going to get my direct selection tool. I can see I have 4 anchor points, 1 in each corner. I'm going to go get the add anchor point tool. Now we did our adding earlier using the pen tool, but you also can specifically use the add anchor point tool. And I'm going to come over here to each side in the middle of this box and click to add an anchor point at each one. I missed the spot. I didn't click exactly on the line and it's telling me that I missed, so I got that little annoying warning there and I got to try it again. Clicking all 4 sides to put in a new anchor point. Now I'll go get my direct selection tool and I'm going to click each one of those points and bring them closer to the center. So I'm creating a new shape from a previous shape that I had. And just do this kind of fast here. Now I'm going to come over here and underneath the pen tool I'm going to go get the anchor point tool. It used to be called convert anchor point tool because that's what it does, it converts things. And I'm going to bring my mouse out here and I want to tell these corners to turn into curved shapes. So I'm going to pull in a clockwise fashion on every one of them. Just to give you an idea of the power of add anchor point, delete anchor point, and convert anchor point. Got that on every one of those. And then I'll go just a little bit further. I'll go back and get my add anchor point tool and I'm going to put a couple new anchor points in here. I'll put one on the left, 2 on the right, and then go get my direct selection tool. This would be a little bit easier to see if we zoom in on this here. So going back in here and clicking, you can see where I added those new anchor points. 1, 2, 3, 4. There was one there already, so I added 3 more. Now I'm going to grab the highest one, this one here, pull it down. I'm going to make a stem for this little clover or flower that we created. So I did all that with add anchor point, delete anchor point, add anchor point and convert anchor point. Now we're going to go back through here and delete. So I'm going to go get the delete anchor point tool, or if I was using the regular pen tool, I could just hover my mouse over the anchor point and it would turn into the delete anchor point. I don't need this one. I don't need this one. I don't need this one. Oops, I missed the spot. When you miss the spot, that's the warning you get. Then I'm going to go to the middle of each one that I added there. Those were the ones on the middles of the sides that I put in. Please use the delete anchor point on an anchor point, it's telling me. And then this one. You know, this would be easier if I just used the regular pen tool, because if I use the regular pen tool, it's only going to delete when I'm on the delete, when the delete symbol shows up. So that might be better to use. And now I'm going to turn this all the way back to a square like I started with by using the convert anchor point tool to convert all the sides here. 1, 2, 3, I missed that, 3, 4, and we're right back where we started. That's not an exercise you need to do. I just want you to visually see how you could make those editing changes all using add anchor point, delete anchor point, and convert anchor point. So I'm going to select this item and delete it. We don't need this in this artwork that we have here. I'll go back to a smaller size by double clicking on the hand tool so I can see that piece of art, and I'm going to save the file at that point. We completed step 12, which was on page 163, and we're ready to go further with this lesson.